I don't know where to go with this, but I would. Can't be that one. I think the difficulty is that I'll pick another card. Let's.
This week on the VooVix Business Show, powered by Republic Africa, he's been called Africa's rock star of public speaking, a globally recognized venture capitalist, a boardroom juggernaut, and the man who built a 400 million round company by the age of 25. Vusi Thembekwayo isn't just a South African entrepreneur, he's a force, an investor, best-selling author, and trailblazer who's reshaping the African business narrative, one bold move at a time. From township beginnings to stages across the world, his story is one of strategy, audacity, and relentless execution. Joining serial entrepreneur Jordan Kensington on this week's VooVix Business Show, get ready for an unfiltered, masterclass-level conversation that pulls no punches. This is Vusi Thembekwayo, only on VooVix TV.
Let's go back to the very start. You are from a place called Benoni, right?
Greatest part of the country.
Well, that's what you say. That's what you say. How does someone from Benoni go on to become one of the biggest speakers across the continent and the world?
A little bit of luck, great training, good opportunities. When I started public speaking by chance, and had the amazing opportunity to be mentored by the right people, the right trainers, the right teachers. And then I joined the competitive stream, and then I started competing and I started winning.
I love that.
So, I think a big part of who we are is not a function of where we come from. I think God gives us each gifts, and he gives those gifts independent of our circumstance, because he doesn't ask our permission to give us those gifts, right?
I love that.
If you're willing to do the work and uncover the gift that God has placed in you, you'll do well.
Public speaking is something that Africa is getting into massively, but it's something that was very big in the West. I remember 30 years ago when I started in business, I was doing public speaking. I spoke with people like Tony Robbins. We were doing tours across. This was like in the early 90s. Now, going back to you, who inspired you in terms of public speaking? Who were you looking at doing public speaking and saying, I want to be a little bit like that?
Yeah, I think in the early days, we all look at the same guys. I think the Americans dominated our model of success. I think Les Brown would be up there in terms of the people that we all looked at and thought, and still, Les is still a great orator. There's that famous speech of his, which went viral many years ago.
The radio station one?
No, the one was, I was hungry.
I love that. I love that.
That's iconic Les back in those days. Of course, Anthony Robbins. I grew up seeing Anthony Robbins tapes on TV, right? If there was a time you would be able to call into Verimark or Glow Mail or any of these companies, and they were selling Anthony Robbins tapes, and he had a Walking with Giants and that type of stuff. So in terms of public speaking, those are a lot of the guys that we looked at and modeled. TD Jakes shaped a lot of my thinking, a lot of my technique. Miles Monroe, iconic Miles Monroe. And then, of course, you have, Jerry Lawler, who was also really, really great, unbelievable orator. When I really got deep into public speaking, Frederick Douglass, those are the kind of guys that we looked at and thought, these guys are. And Frederick Douglass was a slave, right? So that arcs back to, 300 years ago, 200 years ago, and he was that capable and that good. I think we've been lucky to be mentored by some of these people from afar.
I love that. I love that. Now, obviously, we're here for Republic Africa, and you are one of our front covers. Our previous front cover was Aliko Dangote, one of the richest billionaires in the continent. We also had Ibrahim Traore, who is doing a lot of waves. We are having a lot of, and when we say the voice of visionaries, brands, and business in Africa, we actually mean it. You are transforming how Africa is looked like. You are unapologetic when you're going outside of Africa and making sure you represent Africa. How important is it to make sure people have a different view of what they had of Africa? Because I think America did a good job. When you go to America, I'm sure you've been to America a few times, so you go to UK where I'm from, and you look at it and say, well, hang on 1 minute. You guys have done a lot to promote yourselves. It's not quite like that. And we have a lot. I just came up from Tanzania. We just launched a company out in Tanzania, and I was like, this is better than Mauritius. I'm like, what's going on? Do you think Africa has bad PR? And that bad PR has made it impossible for people to actually look at Africa as a place to invest in or go to in terms of proper business, not exploiting their resources. And do you think people like yourselves, because of what you're doing internationally, people like Aliko Dangote, we have in front cover, and Ibrahim Traore are changing the perspective of what Africa looks like?
Far be it for me to try and compare myself with Uncle Aliko or what Ibrahim is doing. I think all of us, in our own respective ways and in our own corners, have to do the little bit that we can do. And I think if you think about it as the little bit you can do, you'll do it well. If you try and have a God complex about it, then you probably won't do it well, because you'll try and save a situation which you can't save in a single generation. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, I shared with a friend the other day that I'm lucky enough that there isn't a single part of Africa where I would be stranded.
Right.
So there are some people who talk about Africa, and then there are some of us who are in it every day. And it's one thing to travel it, it's quite another to be in it, transacting in it. So whether it's Dar es Salaam or Addis Ababa, or Lagos or Abuja, or Guinea-Conakry, every single part of the continent for me is home. And I was very intentional when I started over 10 years ago, traveling into the rest of the continent intentionally to build those relationships and to build them with great intentionality. The original part of your question was, do we have a PR problem? Yeah, we do. And I think before we have a PR problem with the world, we have a PR problem with each other.
True.
Right? And so we have these like adversarial relationships, one nation to another, one tribe to another, one clan to another, which don't serve us in the long run. A big part of that has to do with the divide and conquer mindset.
Yeah.
But actually, the truth is, if you study the history of our continent, even before the colonizers arrived, we had a big part of these adversarial relationships between one tribe and another tribe. There are battles and wars that were fought long before the original settler arrives here. And I think that's a big part of the work our generation has to do.
Yeah.
So the work that I do, and the reason I take that work seriously, is because it's important for us to see the humanity in each other beyond our differences. So whether I was just in Abuja, and after Abuja I was in Lagos. The event I did in Abuja, we had 4,000 people. In Lagos, we had just under 2,000 people. Those places are home to me, right? And I think it's important that we become intentional about breaking down those barriers, right? So we can fix the PR to the world, but let's start with the PR to one another. And let's get the travel, the tourism, the transacting, the business happening with each other.
I love that. And it's a very important statement, is that unity is so important, and divide and conquer mentality, which is post-colonialism. When it comes to unity, when you're going across Africa, as a South African, it reminds me of when I come to Johannesburg, for example, from London. I have a barber that I go to, Max. And I went to the barber today before I got here today. And I said, oh, you know, we're going to be interviewing Vusi today. He goes, oh, Vusi, no, I don't like Vusi. I don't. So I'm like, but why don't you like Vusi?
Why doesn't Max like me?
Wait. I said, no, Vusi, no, Vusi. I said, why? But don't you see this flying the flag for Africa? And I went to dig through, like while he's shaving, I'm digging through, and he goes, because he speaks better than me. so then, do you think? I mean, we have that problem sometimes in London and in America. You go in America, you got people like Candace Owens who've decided because we as a race, we've always been known to speak down rather than speak up. And because slavery and colonialism and all these things happened, prior to that, I mean, we kings of Mansa Musa, we were ruling the world. We were completely on that level. But after that, there's been a kind of way of always bowing down and cowardice. When you speak up or when you sound like you know what you're talking about, in fact, people look at you differently. So how do you deal with that? How you've dealt with that? You've got kids as well. How have you made sure your kids are literally unapologetic when it comes to standing up, sounding up, and being up?
Whew, how much time do you have? Look, first, I think I might be miscrediting it, but I think it was Nelson Mandela that said, shine your light brightly, because when your light shines bright, you give others the permission to do the same.
Sure.
So I think you have a responsibility, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, to shine your light brightly. Second, there is no prize to be won in playing small.
I like that.
So
there is no prize to be won in playing small.
Yeah, it's a race to zero. You play 9, I play 8. You play 7, I play 6. It's a race to zero. Who wins there, right? Third, for sure, when you don't outwardly present as apologetic, people don't have a way of interpreting that. And so the immediate interpretation is, oh, that's arrogance. My Lord and Savior has not brought me this far for me to apologize about coming this far. So, you, at the end of the day, you've got to hold on to the purpose for which you think you were put on this earth, and you've got to pursue it. And that's all I'm trying to do.
I love that. And
the last thing I would say to this is that I think if you're trying to be liked, then living an effective life is the wrong game to play. There are many ways to be liked. For sure, the easiest way to be liked is to blend into the background.
Uniformed.
Yeah, just to exist but not to live. I want to live. And I think if you want to live, you're gonna leave an imprint in the world. And if you're gonna leave an imprint in the world, you're gonna have to stand for something and speak for the thing you stand for. And so if you accept those two as conditions of how you want to live life, then you accept that there are some people who might not immediately like that. They'll come around.
100%. I love that.
They'll come around. I think it's, if you read literature and history of anybody who made an impact in the world, and I'm not saying I am, I'm just trying to live my life.
Yeah.
But if you read the history of anybody who's made an impact in the world, you realize that at a point in time, they were misunderstood and not liked for how they lived their lives.
Yeah.
It's par for the course. People will come around.
I love that. Now, on our other show, the business show for VooVix TV, we had Mark Cuban 3 weeks ago, actually a couple of weeks ago. And Mark Cuban is, if you don't know Mark Cuban, he's one of the leads on Shark Tank.
Sure.
And we were just having a natter about when he first, actually, it kind of connects well. We had Mark Cuban, and then we had a person, Theo Patitis, from Dragon's Den UK. So both
Theo.
of them, yeah, Theo, and they all were telling me about the first time they had a call to be on Dragon's Den, and Mark was talking about the first time he had a call to be on Shark Tank. Now, we and Mark go way back, because when I first started my first company, he was doing broadband. And my first company...
That's early.
Early days. My first company was streaming. right? This is in early 90s.
When were you streaming?
This is 97.
What would have been the speed of the internet then?
But Mark had a company called A-Stream, like an HD company where you can stream radio. So we had a radio station, and he was our streaming provider. No, we didn't call it streaming. It was kind of broadcasting over the internet. So, but now it's called streaming, right? And every radio station thought we were
back in the days when like the World Wide Web was the World Wide Wait.
Yes, like you had to dial up.
Yeah, that was dial-up connection.
Yeah. He sold that company for billions.
512 kbits.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and he was saying
this is the original business he exited.
That's the original business that made billions out of it.
Right.
And he was talking about when he got the call to be on Shark Tank and why he agreed. And Theo was also talking about when he had a call to be on Dragon's Den, and they were not kind of TV people. You know, entrepreneurs back in the day, we were just literally behind the scenes, just doing the hustle.
Yeah.
And
before entrepreneurship was cool.
Exactly, and nobody thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Right? All the artists, everybody, everybody else was cool. Sports personalities, entrepreneurship was that grind was not the good grind. Right, but now everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. And it was like when he got the call, of course. When he got the call, so Mark's take was.
So look, Mark, the first time I came across you was in 1998. I was in the UK. I started my first company, which was Invincible Radio, Television and Magazine. It was the first streaming radio and TV platform in the UK, right? And honestly, when we started, everyone thought we were mad. It was at a time where streaming wasn't that big a deal. Nobody cared about streaming. It was literally, nobody knew how to, and we kind of figured it out. And I remember us being an audio net, right? Because it was like,
broadcast.com, yeah.
Yes, you guys were reaching. So we had listeners. They're tuning into a show from New York to London, and I'm like, how do you know about us? And it was through AudioNet. So it was literally like, man. And I think I've got emails maybe from you from those years, from back in the day, from '98 anymore, because we sold the company for like 30 million, but you sold yours for a record 5.7 billion.
And who was the biggest back then when you were doing your thing? Who dominated back then?
Because literally nobody was doing it. Like literally, you know, watching Shark Tank, I've seen a lot of people come on the show and say, "Hey, Mark, you made me become an entrepreneur." And how, first and foremost, how did that call come about? And it's a triple question. Secondly, how did you kind of climatize to all that newfound fame? Because it was kind of now taking yourself from entrepreneurship to celebrity, right? And number three, it's a triple question, is that you were leaving Shark Tank, right? Yeah. So why did you decide to leave? Three triple questions.
Well, I got the call in like 2009, and it didn't work out for the first season. Then they decided to bring me in as a guest shark for season 2. And literally, it would be on like a Tuesday night one week, a Friday night another week, a Sunday night another week. And I'm like, this show has got no chance whatsoever. But they want me to come on for 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's on ABC, it's on network television. You know, it's going to be seen by millions and millions of people. Go on there, Mark, have some fun. And so I decided I'm going to go on there and just rip it up, right? I'm just going to have fun, just, you know, go for the experience that I've had. So, you know, it was an adjustment. And then in terms of why I'm leaving, 15 years, you know, it's a fun show. It has nothing to do with the show. I love it. And, you know, people come up to me all the time. I'm an entrepreneur because I watch Shark Tank. You know, my son or my daughter started this business because they watched Shark Tank. You guys have taught us about business, et cetera, et cetera. And so I love everything about the show.
And then he decided, the only reason he said yes was for the next generation. He was like, you know what, there's some young kid out there that doesn't understand entrepreneurship. Good. And why I'm saying yes is that they can see me and know I'm a normal person. Because in those days, when you saw an entrepreneur, it's like people like the Mark Zuckerberg who looked as nerds, right? If you wear glasses, you do. If you're an entrepreneur, you look, oh, God, I don't want to do that. I'm out partying. I don't want to be running companies. People have to see what happens behind the scenes, and there was no way of seeing it.
So good.
The only time people heard about entrepreneurs where if you had a rags to riches story that cut through, like my friend Richard Branson and the Virgin whole story. If you didn't have that kind of story, if you're just a grafter and you just made it through, it was difficult. When you got the call to be on Dragon's Den, South Africa, what made you say yes?
So, I mean, there were several things for me. I was kind of at the tail end of my consulting business at the time. I had done it in South Africa. There'd been another show, something in Mzansi. It was on SABC One, and the format of the show was that there were two investors and one advisor to the investors.
Right.
And they had asked me to come onto that show as an investor, and I said no. And they said, well, would you come as an advisor? I said, sure. So I went on the show, and on the 2 or 3 episodes that I did, I was advising the investors on how to invest, and they wouldn't take my advice.
Right.
Which irritated me.
Right.
Because my advice is worth a lot of money.
Of course.
And here I am giving it for free, and these Neanderthals wouldn't take my advice.
Right.
So I was like, well, this is so I kind of had that as in the backdrop. But I'd seen, entrepreneurs come and pitch, and these investors invest. I thought, this is interesting. And so when the opportunity for Dragon's Den came up, you actually won't believe this. Originally, the producers had reached out to me to be a presenter on the show.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, crazy. And I'm like, well, not really my thing. But I think what they actually, and so they asked me to come in for an on-screen test. And I think what they actually wanted to do was to see if I would fare well on the screen.
Right,
it's like, I'm a good-looking guy. I'll fare well on the screen. You all want to find out. And then they asked me to do the show. And similar, we said about it and discussed it as a family. And we decided we would do it. For me, the driver was then, it has been my driver since, that it's really important to demystify businesses. For me, it's important to demystify businesses for young Black people. Now, today, there are a lot of these out there. There are a number of entrepreneurs who are building logistics businesses, manufacturing businesses, retail businesses, consumer goods businesses, technology businesses. Today, if you just went on your TikTok or your Instagram, you can find an influencer who's an entrepreneur in South Africa within the parameters of where we are. 11, 12 years ago, that didn't exist. And so we were kind of at the cutting edge of demystifying this thing called entrepreneurship. So I was interested in, when the entrepreneur comes to pitch, does the young person sitting in a shack somewhere or an RDP house somewhere, do they know what revenues are? Do they know what margin means? Do they know what cost of capital is?
Right.
Do they know what a payback period is? What a burn rate is? The answer is probably not.
No.
And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to play a role in educating that young person.
Yes.
So that when they one day decide, I do want to get into business, concepts like revenue, margins, paybacks, balance sheet, income statements, return on capital are not foreign concepts.
Yes.
Because for a lot of us, we only hear about these concepts the first time when you're going to meet an investor, right? But by now you've left the job, you've taken your pensions and you've put it into the business, if you had one. You've taken all of the risk, and you're only going through the learning curve when you are attempting to raise capital. And I felt then, as I do now, that that's a disservice, that you should learn up front, so that when you make the decision to want to get into business, it's an informed decision. That was a big part for me of why I agreed. And I should tell you that that's been a guiding principle even today for how we do business.
I like that.
Before we transact, can we educate? So we always say, teach before you transact. So when entrepreneurs come to us and say, I'm looking to raise capital, or I'm looking for some assistance in A, Y, and B, we will say, well, you're not ready, but go through this stream first. And so we built several programs where entrepreneurs can be taught and learn before they can earn.
I love that. Each one, teach one.
Amen.
Now, AI is taking over the world right now. It's a technology that some might say came out of nowhere, but some of us in the know, the military had
it's been coming for a while.
I mean, they had that going, but they just gave us the premature
consumer version of it.
The consumer version of it. Now Africa is
talking about from the military applications.
Well, yeah, I mean, and now it's coming to Africa big time, right? When we look at AI and we look at digital IDs, you're looking at CBDCs coming in the future. We as entrepreneurs, you as an entrepreneur, what are you looking at?
Did you say CDCs?
CBDCs.
Oh, central bank digital transactions.
So when you look at that as entrepreneurs, and you're looking at AI, you're looking at CBDCs, you're looking at digital ID, you're looking at how much, they are really pushing Africa to move towards that direction. Is this a good thing for Africa?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. I mean, you don't even need to finish the
Okay,
question.
why?
I mean, I think it's good in the sense that anything that shortens. Look, for anybody watching this, the most expensive cost in business is time.
Right.
It's not money. Right. So the difference between yours and my generation, the generation before us and the generation before them, is the time it takes to reach $1 million.
Yeah. Now
We can reach.
It's quick.
You and I today can come up with a concept. We can go on Replit or Lovable.
Yeah.
We can build
Yeah.
a sort of a front end or a prototype. We can go to market and launch. We can market test in 24 hours. We can then go, great, we want to launch this native. We then launch native. We plug in a Stripe or some sort of payment gateway. We plug in a third-party fulfillment partner. And in a week, we're running. And in a month, we're at $1 million in turnover. Right. For context, $1 million is 20 million rand. There are entrepreneurs I have met who have worked their entire lives who will never make 20 million.
You got kids in America doing that in a week just by sitting in front of a computer.
In front of a computer.
Yeah.
So what is several things, but for me, what excites me is it reduces the time, which is the most expensive thing you'll pay in business. That's the first thing it does. The second thing it does is it reduces the hurdles of what it took to do business.
Yes.
I've been in business back before, remember Web 1?
Yeah.
Then we moved over to Web 2, long before we were talking about cloud.
Yes.
Then we went from as a service, it was software as a service, infrastructure as a service, payments as a service, platform as a service. And in between that, we spoke about this thing called Web 3 and then blockchain, then off-chain, on-chain. Then we went from online, offline. We've had so many of these digital transactions and revolutions, they call them, taking place, that each of them reduces time. So I'll tell you a funny story. I wanted to build a website, like the first Vusi website.
Right.
Don't laugh. This is 2000, and so I started public speaking 2000. The year 2000, I started at school. 2002, I was competing at an international level, went to live in Australia for a little bit. I turned professional in 2004, and circa 2005, 2006, I wanted to build a website. Before we were talking HTML, right?
Yeah.
And
HTML.
That took you back, right?
Yeah.
And so, today people are talking HTML5 and all of this. We were talking, what was that? There was like an Adobe language they used to build websites on. I forget it now. Say again?
InDesign.
InDesign, right? Back in those days.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I go to a developer who I go to a developer and I'm like, yo, can you guys build me a website? And they scope the website. You remember the days when you would do a technology project and it would be waterfall. Remember waterfall, long before we were scrumming, right?
Yes.
They scope the website and they come with a waterfall and the project document. And they said to me, 96,000 rand
For a normal website.
to build a website.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to contextualize this, okay? You come from where I come from. 96,000 rand could be your parents' annual salary. I was like, where the hell am I going to get my 96,000 bucks?
On this website.
And who's going to be on the website? It's just like 96,000 rand to build a website is what they were costing me 2005, 2006. I remember vividly Ryan coming to present that to me. And I said, what any person does when they have the dream but not the budget. I said, I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
I would say to entrepreneurs, if you're dealing with a customer
I'll come back
and they
to
say,
you.
I'll come back to you, they ain't coming back. They ain't coming back. They ain't coming
I'll
back.
send the invoice. Let me just review it. Send me the invoice.
I like that. Or my other favorite one, send me a proposal.
Yeah, no one's reading that.
Send me a proposal is code for no, but I can't tell you.
Yes.
So anyway, so the point I make is today, you could launch a better website than they would have done then for 96,000 bucks.
Yeah.
That's not assuming the time value of money. So 96,000 bucks, then today is probably twice that.
Yeah.
If I'm being aggressive. So you're talking about 100 and something thousand rand for a website.
Yes.
You and I can go and code it today.
Standard.
So your question was, am I excited by what technology will do generally?
Yes.
Whether we talk artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, and how it affects several industries, healthcare, financial services, education. The answer to all of those questions is yes, yes, and yes.
Right.
Because it means builders can build, creators can create, innovators can innovate at a lower cost with a shorter route and time to market. And the rising tides can only elevate all the ships. So I'm excited by it.
Definitely. I mean, I like that. I mean, how do you protect yourself then? Because when you're going into the digital side of things, I mean, we kind of remember when the internet kind of took over. At the internet time, I just remember everyone was getting scared. Everyone was like, this is going to take over jobs. This is going to be scary. And it's going to take over the music industry. It did. It's going to take over film. It did. It's going to take over books. People are going to be reading online. It did. And all the markets have been scared. Obviously, new markets formed. Netflix came and everyone kind of, new things formed out of it. But, with every good thing, there's also negative parts.
Amen.
Famously, a lot of company CEOs ended up becoming, taking themselves out of the market, saying, like, for example, Steve Jobs said, my children are going to use these phones I'm creating because I just think it's addictive. So with AI, how can you make sure you keep that natural ability that you have?
Yeah.
The natural ability to think, natural ability to speak for yourself, the natural ability to create those ideas, if always, without cheating yourself every single time and say, well, let's ask AI. Or in our day, let's ask Google.
It's a good question, and I want to hope I would have had the answer for you. But I don't. I think that, so first, I think technology is going to do what technology does.
Sure.
But herein lies the work and the challenge for regulators and governance. Now, notice I didn't say governments.
Governance.
I said governance, right? And so the real question should be, let's take it a step back. Ships were a technology in their day. And so with a ship, you could sail from one continent to another. And because you could sail from one continent to another, you could trade from one continent to another. And as a consequence of that, the world developed a governance model around the shipping industry. Technology, internet, is a technology.
Yeah.
And because we were laying all of these undersea cables, the world thought, well, we need a governance framework for these. They built a governance framework. Financial institutions and finance as an innovation presents as an innovation and therefore is a form of technology. There was a time we didn't have banking, right?
Yes.
And so around that innovation and that technology, we developed governance frameworks. Now, notice a lot of these governance frameworks are multilateral.
Yes.
They often have little to do with a nation state, but there are transnational, multilateral institutions that manage the governance frameworks of shipping or banking or financial services or insurance or any of these, right? I think we're going to need to do a similar thing with artificial intelligence. Far be it for me to say, I'm just a capital allocator.
There you go.
Right. But for sure, I think there's going to need to develop some sort of governance framework.
I like that. I like that. So final question before we end this segment and go to the boardroom for the serious debated questions. Not that serious, it's more lightweight questions. Final question is, you mentioned God a lot in how your ability is. And I always like to ask entrepreneurs, what is your relationship with God? And I always get different answers. And I think it's very important as well, because a lot of people who get into business think, it's by their might that you're going to achieve a lot of things. But the thing is, I can't control how the person in Dubai treats this contract, but I can control it through prayers. So what is your relationship with God, and how has God impacted your business? I tell you mine. When people ask me, do you have business partners? I say, of course, I've got the number one CEO in the business, and that's God. So when I need to speak to the best business partner, I speak to my CEO. How has God, transformed your life and your business?
Yeah, I'm loud in how I praise. I'm careful in how I advise, because I'm still on my own journey. I can talk about, your question was, how has God influenced and affected the way that I approach business? So, a few things. So, the first is that I've had to learn not to make my relationship with God transactional. And I think a lot of us do this thing where we go to God when we need something, or when we want that contract, or you want that opportunity. So for me, it's to praise even in the stillness, even in the steady waters when nothing major is happening,
Yes.
and to praise that. Second is recognizing that my work is a form of ministry, and so that it isn't necessarily that I have to stand at the pulpit, but how I show up, how I treat others, the level of excellence that me and my team show is a form of ministry.
Yes.
And that people will understand that and will ask, who's the God that he prays to that he gets that level of grace?
I like that.
And so that's the kind of the second way that I approach it. The third is, once you realize that you serve a God who exists outside time, it means the game you play changes. And so, whereas there was a time one was very short term, very deterministic, very what comes next, very transactional, I've had to learn that I serve a God who exists outside time.
Yes.
My purpose existed before time.
Yes.
And so I should try and live my life in the same way. I say I've had to learn. I don't get it right all the time.
Of course.
But this is what I try.
I love it. Now we are talking about the front cover of Republic Africa. This is the first issue of January. You have this as a present.
Thank you.
This is the Ibrahim Traore cover. You're going to be on the 2026 issue cover. What legacy would you like to be remembered as? What would you like to be your legacy?
I struggle with the legacy question, man.
Me too. I do.
I don't know. I'm just a guy trying to live a life, trying to have an influence and make a difference. I think that if the only legacy that I can leave behind is that people would look at my life and say, whatever prayer he said to whichever God he prays, I want that God to answer that prayer for me.
I like that.
That's it.
Vusi, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Vusi right here on VooVix TV Republic Africa. Make sure you get yourselves the copy January 2026 front cover. As we start the year, we'll keep it tuned to VooVix TV Africa and www.voovixtv.com.
Yes.
Vusi, how you doing? You all right?
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Let's go through the magic box. Choose one of your cards from the debated box.
Any one of these?
Any one of these you can choose. What is the card reading?
It says, are influences good for society or harmful?
Oh, wow. Are influences good for society? Yeah?
Let 1,000 flowers bloom. The more ideas, the more people sharing them, the better.
Yeah.
You want to live in a society where there is more opportunity to express yourself rather than more constraints against expressing yourself.
Do you know, I agree with that. Obviously, it's debated, but obviously, when we're talking about influencers, anybody can be an influencer now.
Sure.
Someone can get up in the morning and just go online and say, hey,
Sure.
you know what? I am the authority on health.
Yes.
And they'll be like, hey, you know what? All you got to do is to eat the sand. And you eat the sand, you're going to be so intelligent, and
That is
people will be
true.
out here eating sand.
Sure.
So do you think there's got to be, like you said something about governance earlier on, do you think there's got to be a little bit of kind of, there's got to be some influence? Some influences are good, but some influences can influence you to do things that you shouldn't be doing.
It depends on what position you want me to take, but if you want Vusi, the classical debater, to go against you, here's what I would say. In any event, even if people hold views as influences that are not true, the market of influences will expose the lie.
True.
So in effect, it's a self-governing mechanism. It's like freedom of speech, right? It's freedom of speech, which is to say somebody could say something that is harmful. But the counterweight for that is if they say something harmful, somebody else will say something that is not. So if you want the purest argument is let the influencers do what the influencers do. And for every influencer out there that's feeding people lies, there'll be a legitimate, genuine influencer who will expose the lie.
I like that, like for like. All right, so the final card that you take, and then we want to find out what your hot take is. Final card, choose very carefully and wisely through the red box.
What is a conspiracy theory that you know 100% to be true?
Wow. What is a conspiracy theory that you know 100% to be true?
Conspiracy theory that I know 100% to be true. Not much of a conspiratorial guy. I don't know where to go with this, but I would. Can't be that one. I think the difficulty is that I'll pick another card. Let's
pick another card.
Let's pick another card here, and let's see how this one goes.
Right.
Are we getting more comfortable not talking to each other because of the internet?
Right. So I kind of piggybacks on what we were talking about earlier on with AI and everything else. Internet. And sites like Facebook, for example, if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, who created Facebook, you look at his history behind creating Facebook. He was kind of unsocial when he was at uni. He couldn't get on with people. He wasn't social at all. So he decided to create a platform to become social. Then he taught the whole world to become social in his way, which is talking online, talking on Facebook. It's done well for businesses. But has that made people curtail how they speak to each other? You know, some people are like, you know, I text you online. Like I text you on WhatsApp, which is still owned by Mark, by the way, Meta. I text you on WhatsApp, I text you, but nobody communicates as much as they did before. And back in the day, you have people who actually value like the communication we're having now. But now it's like, hey, let's just Zoom this. Why are we meeting face to face? You know, let's Facebook message, let's WhatsApp. Has the internet changed the way we communicate? And is that for better or worse?
Again, I think there is a counterweight to all things.
Right.
When you realize that reality is more nuanced, and that the truth of it is that actually reality is often gray and never black and white, or seldom black and white. So I would say the following. If you're considering 50 years ago, if you were a young person coming up and you reached the age about which you were serious about contemplating a lifelong partner in a relationship, this would have been a person who was in your approximation.
Sure.
Would have been a person who lived in your street, lived in your town, went to your church, perhaps used the same public transport system as you did, because you would have needed a way to meet this person.
True.
Today, you can meet a person from anywhere in the world. So if you consider that love is a form of communication, then what technology has done is allowed us to communicate love across boundaries, across geographies. There is a couple married today where one person comes from Georgia and the other person comes from Lebanon. And if you think about the history of Georgia and Lebanon, that might never happen. There is a young couple today where one person comes from Pakistan and the other one is from Peru.
What you're saying there, Vusi, is that Tinder is definitely doing its job. So that's the
whether
good side
Tinder
of
or
it.
Bumble, but I think the point I make is, so the counterweight to that is sure, it has limited whether or not we readily communicate in the person, but it has also expanded the number of people with whom we can communicate.
That's the positives. What about people? I mean, like, I don't know whether you guys have it here in South Africa and the UK. The Gen Z audience, most of them they're finding very massive difficulties sitting in a room and actually communicating together. And because they've been used to so much TikToking and Facebooking and everything else, and you know, traditional talking stuff. For example, I'm old school. I still write. Like I literally I've got books. I will write everything there, and people can laugh at that. I embrace the new school, but I'm very much all about the natural too. You have to have a kind of balance. These kids, you know, and they say, when I speak to a lot of these, go to loads of these universities and speak to these kids, and they're like, how do you hold a conversation without it being awkward? It gets awkward really fast. And the reason why is not because they want to be awkward. It's just because they've just been used to being in an environment that they don't communicate like that.
I can tell you as a father, right, that I mean, my kids are fairly adept with technology. I've not seen it materially impair their ability to communicate with others. But that notwithstanding, I should say that as a family, we also have very clear parameters around which our kids can use technology. So far be it for me to say, but yeah.
I love that. So finally, what is your hot take?
Several hot takes that get me in trouble. That's why I'm careful. I would say a few things.
Right.
That it has never been easier for Africans to self-actualize the African dream.
I 100% agree.
And some people will watch that and say, and assume that I said it is easy. I said it has never been easier. In other words, as difficult as it is today, this generation has it the easiest.
Right.
When I say that to people, they get offended often because they think I'm saying it's easier. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying the odds that my parents and their parents and their parents had against them were infinitely larger than the odds that I have against me. So I have to consider that as difficult as it is today, it is the easiest in my bloodline it has ever been. And once you understand that, you understand the gift of the contemporary moment this generation has actually been given. That of all of the people you've had in your family, your entire bloodline, every single one of the people who came together to make sure that you would exist in this moment, then the hundreds of ancestors who had to come together at different times in the history of your family just so you could exist today, all of them had it worse than you.
Sure.
In the African context. When you consider that, you then realize how lucky you were to be born in this generation. And so as hard as it is, it's the easiest that it's ever been.
That is true. Vusi, you're nominated for Best Podcast this year's National Film and Television Awards, taking place on the 22nd of November. Congratulations. Yeah, of course. Congratulations to you. Come on, guys. Make some noise.
I don't keep a track on that, but
congratulations. What do you feel about all the, because this is publicly nominated, what do you feel about all the public, all the viewers out there that have nominated you and they're voting for you right now? What do you got to say to them? And would you be attending the awards on the 22nd of November?
To God be the glory. I don't know if I'm in the country circa that time.
Yeah.
For sure, if I am, I'd be honored to be there. I think, listen, I made a bet with God some time ago. And so I have to hold up my end of the bet. And often my end of the bet is that I have to be at places even when I don't feel like it. I should say in particular.
You don't feel like being here today?
No.
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I should say, even especially to the younger people watching this conversation, that one of the harder things I had to learn was that the commitment is about doing the thing beyond the feeling you had when you made the commitment. So long before when you felt excited about something, the excitement will win, but you've got to see it through.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Your question was very direct. Will I be? I mean, if I'm here, I'll definitely be there. The message I have to everybody who's nominated us is thank you, to God be the glory. To whomever wins, well done, keep going. We started our podcast long before podcasting was like a popular thing. We did it then and continue to do it now because I felt that it's important for us to shape and reshape the thinking of our people and to help them model positively and give them the tools and information that they need to do so. For me, the success is when people's lives are changed, not necessarily to whomever it is that's holding the awards. I believe it's the NFVF.
This NFTs is us.
There you go. Well,
Yeah,
then continue to do it, continue to execute on it, because the industry requires of it that it actually gets done. And to every single one of the creators and the podcasters out there, I think one of the challenges we have in today's world of instant feedback and information, where you can immediately get the like, immediately get the comment, immediately get the share, immediately get the member or the sticker or whatever, is we forget that there is a difference between reach and rich. And sometimes rich conversations don't have reach.
100%.
And so it's one of the things I think we need to be very careful about, even in this new media space, that there are so many creators out there who are playing the reach game, but aren't enriching our lives.
100%.
And so the conversations are adversarial, they're negative, they're dragging people down, they're talking about people's dirty laundries as if they don't have any. I would far rather be in a room with a few people who want to do good, who want to leave people richer than they are, And I would say to every single creator out there who's building a podcast or a similar type of platform, make sure that you go for the rich, not the reach. Make sure that you leave people better rather than try to reach as many people as you can. Because at the end of the day, whether or not you believe it, this is a true story. The internet never forgets.
The internet never forgets. That's a brutal way to end the debated show. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up to Vusi. Come on. Vusi, thank you very much.